In the mountains of western North Carolina, the history of education presents a unique and dynamic story. Here, learning has taken many forms, from in-home instruction, common and subscription schools, to seminary academies and colleges of farming and craft. The curriculum of these schools, as well as their very construction, and in some cases consolidation or closing, was deeply entwined with the changing needs and values of the local communities.
My roots kind of go back to this college, or this university now, was a college then, and then I became a teacher here in Madison County in 2005. I've worked in almost every elementary school here. I've served as the principal at Laurel Elementary School before it closed. And so I feel like through the years I've been able to sink some deep roots into the culture of this county and into the people of this county. I have been a participant in the North Carolina Junior Historian Association since I've been in Madison County teaching. It's where it's an extracurricular activity that engages the students in their local heritage and researching their local heritage. And that has made me want to dive in even more into rural Appalachian history. And I feel that program is significant because it keeps that oral history going. It teaches the kids the value of the heritage where they came from.
So we ended up back here in Mars Hill, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for me to be here. And I've grown into a full-time position and grown into the department chair, and all three of my kids have attended or are attending Mars Hill right now too. So it's been a wonderful family legacy, and it's we're a package deal now. A dream of mine to somehow bring the history of Mars Hill, a college and university, to our students, and also work in the educational history right here in North Carolina, and we've been able to do that.
Since the mid-19th century, hundreds of schools have opened and educated students across Madison County. Although many of these schools were small, one-room buildings that served only a few students living nearby, their very existence reflects an incredible appreciation for education by the local community, an appreciation that complicates misconceptions depicting these Southern Appalachian folk as an isolated or undereducated people resistant to change.
My parents were both teachers, and in time were teachers at Mars Hill Elementary, Mars Hill High School when everything was community-based. I started kindergarten at Mars Hill Elementary. Both parents taught on that campus in different parts of it. As I think I was in either the first or second grade, the consolidation happened to the high schools, and my dad was picked as one of the teachers to go to the new consolidated school. Later on, my mom went also. I finished the 8th grade at Mars Hill when that was as far as it went. This was prior to the middle school time. We all in the 9th grade wound up at the high school from all the 4 communities that were left from a lot of smaller schools being consolidated into the elementaries. Met people that we probably wouldn't have known before from parts of the county that we didn't really go travel out to that much. And what carried with us beyond the year that I graduated in '87, there was probably a third of the students wound up being teachers somewhere in Western North Carolina. And a lot of them I work with today, me being a teacher in the high school, a lot of my co-workers were former classmates of my graduating high school class. Teachers who pushed me to do the best that I could. I wound up firstly in community college and then going on to university at Western Carolina in manufacturing, and then staying on to get a master's of science and technology there. That background made that possible. The folks that pushed me to do the best that I could to expose the things that were as new as they could be anywhere else, we had access to by teachers putting a lot of hard work in to get it for us.
I came, and at the time, Mars Hill, we had about 100 black students there. Most of us came for football. I would say probably out of the population of 100 black students, probably about 80 of us, 85 of us were male. And that was always the uniqueness of Mars Hill College at the time, that we were such a small population that you knew one another. You have this opportunity, but again, also with this opportunity, it was going to take courage, it was going to take strength to push forward in that. In 2000, Mars Hill received a grant from Coca-Cola. Bridges for Success was the grant's title, and was trying to Mars Hill was purposely going to try to recruit more African American students to Mars Hill. And so they asked me to come back and teach. So I taught here from 2000 to 2002 with the idea of how do we bring more African American students to Mars Hill. And I coached at Asheville High and worked with Asheville High and brought students here and saying, here's the school that's right down the road. It has an opportunity for you to attend. 2018, I got approached again by the university. And again, the university was trying to purposely say, how can we improve our relationship in the African American community and increase our student population, but also support our student population. So they said, looking at it, by this time, Mars Hill became really between 20 to 30% African American in the student population, but there was no full-time faculty member. Mars Hill has African American staff members, coaches, but there was no full-time faculty member. We were blessed, me and my wife were able to come. I'm full-time faculty member of teaching history. My wife is our director of institutional assessment and effectiveness. So again, the Lord worked it out for us both to return and to work on how do we support our African American students, but then also going beyond that, not just our African American students, but our other students of color and of our diverse backgrounds. So how does Mars Hill, and how can I help you? And I think that goes back to the history of Mars Hill, the faculty and staff, of trying to find ways to be what used to be the motto of Mars Hill, that you get on the shirts, place that cares, and cares about how our students are growing here, but then be able to go out and grow after they leave here. So,
in reality, successive generations have supported a practical education that honors community values and prepares students for their future. Over time, as social and economic conditions have changed, so has the curriculum, function, and format of these schools.
I came here in 1956. It was the year of the 100th anniversary of Mars Hill College. I came from a small high school in south of Charlotte. We had 49 students in my graduating class. So I was happy to come to a small college. I had my minister of my church bring 4 or 5 girls to the college to look at the college, and I was the only one that came back. As I have worked with alumni, many of them have told me, and I agree with them, that this school changed their lives, and it set the direction of their lives. The faculty took a real part in our lives. I just decided this is where I wanted to be, and I was going to be a part. Mars Hill continues to be my life, and build a home here, and this is where I am.
I was born in the Petersburg community. It's on 213 between here and Marshall. And my dad taught school, and he taught at Marshall School. And he tried to take me there, but they would not let me go. I had to come back to center school. I had to walk to school. It was a mile. And then I had to walk back home as a first grader. And but I remember we didn't have a cafeteria to begin in, but they started one, and all the students had to bring a plate and silverware to support the cafeteria. And then in the second grade, I moved to Marshall, graduated from Marshall High School on the island. Came to Mars Hill College, and I came in the summertime. My dad said, there's no need of wasting your summers. You need to start and go to school and finish early. So I did, and I was here 2 summers and 1 year, and then transferred to Western Carolina. And then I came back one summer because I wanted to take burning wood for chemistry. He was an excellent teacher, and I took him for organic chemistry. But I graduated when I was 20 years old, Western Carolina, and started teaching at Marshall High School, teaching math and science. And I had one student 20 years old, as old as me. But I turned 21 right quick, September, started in August. But I taught there 3 years. And during that time, I got my master's degree at Western Carolina in School Administration. I was the youngest principal of North Carolina at that time. I was principal of Walnut 1 year. In fact, I was principal of 3 schools in 1 year. I was principal of Walnut full year. And on the day that we were to start school, the teachers to come in, Mr. Edwards, the superintendent, called and said, "I need you to go to Hot Springs," as principal. So I went to Hot Springs that day. And I stayed there until November 13th. It was on a Friday. I remember that day. He called and said, "Stop at my office on the way home." And I did. And he said, "You're going to the high school on Monday." And I got to stay there 15 years until 1990. Worked as superintendent 6 years before I retired.
I started at Laurel Elementary. My mother was also a school teacher, but never did ride a school bus because either Daddy, when Mother didn't have her driver's license, Daddy took us to school. So when I started first grade, my aunt was the was my teacher. She told Mother that she felt like I needed to be moved up to the second because I already knew everything in the first grade. Mother found out about 2 weeks later that my aunt really was afraid I was going to be a discipline problem, and so Mother made me go back to the first grade, and from the second. So it took me 3 different times to really get started in the first grade at Laurel Elementary, which was called Laurel High School at the time. But I went to school there through the 7th grade. Laurel was a very artsy, entertaining type school. Dancing, tap, ballet, jazz. So we had a lot of cultural experiences at Laurel, although it was very small and very remote in terms of lots of folks thinking it was very worthwhile education to us. My mother started teaching at Marshall when I was in the 8th grade. And so this was a new experience for us, a much larger school than what we've been used to going to at Laurel. But it was a wonderful experience for my sister and I because the offerings were much greater in terms of course selections and opportunities and activities and things to do, although we continued to live on Laurel. Mother and Daddy drove us back and forth. So I changed my major to secondary math and graduated in the class of 68. The folks here were kind enough to help me arrange to do some things in summer school so David and I could get married. And I didn't have another year of college left, so we got married in June of 67. Finished up my work in Madison County as the principal of Walnut Elementary. And I was actually there as the principal when the school burned. And then I moved from there to Madison Middle School and retired from there in 2002.
Madison County students are making an impact all over this country.
We invite you to open the door, to look at the ways local residents confronted and renegotiated these barriers to education, and to discover a story of opportunity, growth, and change.